You probably remember the little tiny schematic that I pulled out of the back of the radio that was about so big. I would show it to you, but I don't have it right handy. It's about 4 foot away from me. It's kind of challenging to access right now. Stuck that on a plain white piece of paper and then put it in the scanner, and I scanned it at I think either 2400 or 3200 DPI, and scanned it in a TIFF format so I'd have a pure raw file. That gave me a file size of about 102 megs, and then I printed it. I printed it in a 4x4, 4 columns, 4 rows, and this is that little tiny piece of paper. Of course, you're only looking at half of it. The other half, the bottom half, is right there. So this schematic now covers my entire workbench. That's how tiny my workbench is. Going through the problem on the board in the area where I was and comparing it to what I saw here on the schematic, I found a discrepancy. The resistor that I put heat on, that squeal like a stuck pig, was this resistor right here, 33K, R30, and its next door neighbor, R31, 100K. This is a prime example of why it's really great to have a schematic on something that you're going to work on, even if it does seem pretty straightforward at face value. And that's what this kind of seemed like, straightforward face value. If I wouldn't have had this schematic, I could have goofed up, I reckon. As you could plainly see right here, the resistor in my hand is red, red, orange, gold, which comes up to 20K. And that's exactly what I was reading on my ohm meter, 20K. So if I wouldn't have had the schematic, I would have put in at face value another 20K. But I would have thought, hey, there was no problem. But before I actually was poking around looking at values, I was examining the schematic, and the schematic told me 30K or 33K or whatever it was. So I come back and I confirm that, yeah, that's exactly what I have in here. And I do all my tests. Now, since the last clip, I'm 2 days out. I spent pretty much all day yesterday poking and prodding, scoping, and everything else, the entire board, and checking values and learning my tools and confirming and trying to understand the science of the failure. I know what the problem was, but trying to understand why it was, and confirming that yes, I had the right area. So I spent the entire day doing that, and placing this resistor on the scope, placing this resistor on the ohm meter and the voltmeter. It checked fine. I did not have an issue with it at all. Same with its neighbor. Did not have a problem. Signal looked clean. I did not see any issues. So I'm sitting here thinking, maybe I have an issue with the capacitors, the transistor, this can, or even the capacitor here. Or who knows, maybe something else in this area that I'm missing. But when I hit it with my heat gun, nothing else acted up as bad as that resistor did. And touching all aspects of this board, these components, it did act very sensitive. I got that high-pitching noise or other noise, but it was really predominant in this area. But like I said, I got that pretty much all areas touching the board. So I pulled the board out and went ahead and pulled this resistor out, and I thought, well, I'm here, I might as well pull this one out as well. Put the new ones in. As you see, I went ahead and put the value that the schematic read, 33K, and put in a new 100. Turned it on and went through the dial, and everything, this radio no longer exhibits the issues that I had. Remember, one of the other issues is once I got around the 1000 kilohertz mark, I would get dead space and I would get that screeching, squealing noise. I would get that in other placements on the band as well, but it was primarily right there in that section. And for me, around that section is when I inject a 455 kilohertz signal in here. That's about where I go, is the middle of the band. And so right off the bat, it was real noticeable to me. Of course, as you saw earlier in this video, it was in multiple places on the dial. Trying to learn electronics and trying to learn tools and properly diagnose things, I thought that, you know, this had to be an oscillation issue, because when I turn the selector, it would come in and go out. My first idea was great because honestly, I didn't have a backup plan after that. So I'm very pleased, I'm very happy that this resolved the issue. So let me go ahead and take this time to quickly demo this to you both. A tiny band scan. We're just going to come up into this region. Oh, you can't see. We're going to come up here into the 1000 kilohertz spectrum, and you'll see that I'm now past that issue. Let me adjust my lights. And also take note, my hand placement is right back to where it was yesterday. So I've got a finger here, and another one down up in here. So I'm definitely touching a lot of components that yesterday caused me a lot of problems. No blinking, no squealing.
Well, good afternoon to you, Grant, and all the Grant.
So I'm very pleased with that. Let me aim this camera to the scope, and we'll look at it on the scope. For a probe placement, I'm putting it right here on that resistor that I replaced, the 3300. And right now I'm not going to do multiple cameras. I don't have the other one set up at this moment. Wow. It would take 2 minutes to set that up. But either way, we'll just work with the one camera. So what you're watching is that resistor. And I'll turn up the volume just a little bit so you could have audible with visual. Make the waveform a little bigger so we could see it better.
Into new generations. Tune in to Family Talk, following the bottom line every
And that's wiggling because of the audio.
In the Word. For the Lutheran Hour, Bible's clear. For blueprints. Forget it, because I know I'll forget about it.
So there you go. Definitely looks a lot better. Nice clean signal. Let me go off on a side tangent, and let me say one other thing about working fantastic. In a earlier video, I did a overview of desoldering needles. And I need to tell you, I've been using these now on the last couple of radios. Now that I got a little experience under my belt with them, these things are fantastic. I absolutely like these. I just need to find better quality. So, definitely worth the $2 I paid for them. And I would highly recommend you get you a couple of sets as well. What I find wrong with these is that they just suck in. They're not don't have a good grip in the plastic. These are hollow handles. But until then, I'll keep using them until they break or until I could find a better pair, better ones. So the next step, what's going to happen? What do I need to do? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a complete alignment on AM and FM again. I'm going to do this sitting out here on the bench like this. I'm going to reassemble it back into the case and just go over it one last time in the case. I'm going to do it outside of the case in case I run into issues. Then I'm already here. I don't want to tear it back out again. Give it its final touch-up in case. Reassemble the case. Then run through the spectrum again to see how well the radio works. Now, I'm not going to do any of that on camera. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. This is a long-winded series already because I would rather save your time for the final resolve. Tonight, when everybody starts powering down and DX starts rolling in, I'll record then, and then we could see how well it does for DX. Hopefully a lot better than it has. I'm not putting any stock into it, so we'll have to see. If nothing else, it'll make a fantastic radio for local broadcast, for the office, for the garage, for the patio. The radio, as far as that is concerned, is a fantastic radio. I've got it plugged into my benchtop speaker, and it sounds fantastic going through a external loudspeaker. So I'm pleased with the radio at face value. I'm not one for FM radio anymore. I'm no longer that demographic. My demographic is still DX. I'm all into DX. Great if it works fine locally, for AM. But it's all about the DX for me. All right, I'll wrap it up. This section's gone on too long. Catch you this evening.